What I'm about to tell you will make your blood boil. My boss Marcus approved my bereavement leave to attend my father's funeral, put it in writing, signed off on everything. 3 days later, I came back to work to find a termination email waiting in my inbox. Fired for abandoning my responsibilities during a critical period. The same responsibilities he told me not to worry about while I buried my dad. But here's the thing. Marcus had no idea that my father had drilled one lesson into me since childhood. Always document everything, and never let anyone walk over you without consequences. What happened next completely destroyed not just Marcus, but the entire company. And it all started with one phone call to an employment lawyer who'd been waiting years for a case exactly like this. By the time I was done, 7 people had quit, 2 major clients had walked, the company lost over $2 million, and Marcus, well, let's just say his career in marketing is permanently over. This is the story of how firing me for attending my father's funeral became the biggest mistake TechFlow Solutions ever made. The email was waiting for me when I logged into my computer that Wednesday morning. Subject line: Employment termination, effective immediately. My hands actually shook as I clicked it open. Sarah, due to your failure to maintain professional responsibilities during a critical project phase, your employment with TechFlow Solutions is terminated effective today. Please clear your desk and report to HR by 5 p.m. for exit processing. Marcus Reed, Marketing Director. I read it 3 times before it sank in. Terminated. After 6 years of building TechFlow's digital marketing department from 3 people to a team of 12. After increasing our client retention rate by 47% last quarter alone. After working 60-hour weeks to launch the Davidson campaign that brought in our biggest client ever. All because I took 3 days of approved bereavement leave to bury my father. 3 days that Marcus himself had signed off on just last week. I still had his email. Sarah, take all the time you need. Family comes first. The team can handle things while you're gone. My condolences on your loss. I'm Sarah Johnson, and until about 2 minutes ago, I was the Senior Marketing Manager at TechFlow Solutions here in Austin. At 32, I'd built something I was genuinely proud of. A marketing team that felt more like family than coworkers. We'd celebrated promotions together, worked late nights to meet impossible deadlines, and supported each other through personal challenges. My father, Robert Johnson, had been my biggest supporter through it all. Even during his final weeks battling cancer, he'd ask about work, about my team, about the campaigns we were running. "You're building something important, sweetheart," he'd said from his hospital bed. "Don't let anyone diminish what you've accomplished." Now here I was, staring at a termination notice that did exactly that. The Austin office was already bustling with morning energy, developers grabbing coffee, account managers prepping for client calls, the familiar hum of productivity. I looked around my corner office, at the whiteboard covered in campaign strategies, the wall of successful project certificates, the photo of my team at last year's company retreat to Lake Travis. 6 years of my career, condensed into whatever could fit in a cardboard box. But something my father taught me kicked in. Documentation. Dad had been a paralegal for 30 years before retiring, and he'd drilled one thing into me since childhood. Always keep records, Sarah. Paper trails save lives and careers. I opened my filing cabinet and pulled out the folder I kept for important emails. Marcus's approval for my bereavement leave was right there, printed and dated. His follow-up email checking on me during the funeral. Even his message yesterday saying, "Welcome back. Take it easy your first day." I took photos of everything with my phone, then forwarded all the relevant emails to my personal account. If TechFlow wanted to play games with my father's death, I'd make sure I had ammunition. My computer pinged with a Slack message from Alex Thompson, my lead campaign manager. "Sarah, how are you feeling? Ready for the Morrison presentation today?" The Morrison presentation, the campaign I designed 3 weeks ago, before Dad took his final turn for the worse. The presentation Marcus was supposed to give to our biggest potential client this afternoon. I smiled grimly as I began packing my personal items. Marcus had just fired the only person who knew the Morrison strategy inside and out, 2 hours before the most important pitch meeting of TechFlow's year. My father always said that people's true character shows up in crisis moments. Marcus was about to learn exactly what kind of character he'd been dealing with all these years. And more importantly, he was about to discover what happened when you mess with a woman whose father raised her to never back down from a fight. I didn't cry. I didn't storm into Marcus's office or send an angry reply-all email. Instead, I pulled out my phone and called David Mitchell, an employment attorney my father had introduced me to years ago at a legal conference. "David Mitchell," he answered on the second ring. "David, it's Sarah Johnson, Robert's daughter. I need legal counsel, and I need it fast." There was a pause. "Sarah, I'm so sorry about your father. He was a good man. What's happened?" I explained the situation in calm, measured sentences while I continued methodically packing my desk. David listened without interrupting, and when I finished, I heard him exhale slowly. "Sarah, what you're describing is textbook wrongful termination. Firing someone for taking approved bereavement leave, especially when it's documented, that's not just unethical, it's illegal under several statutes. Don't sign anything from HR. I'll be at your office in 30 minutes. By the time I'd packed half my desk, word had spread. Maya Stevens, our creative director, appeared at my doorway, her face pale. "Sarah, what's going on? Why are you packing?" "I've been terminated," I said simply, wrapping my desk lamp in bubble wrap. "What? That's insane. You just got back from—" She stopped, realization dawning. "No, he didn't. Marcus didn't fire you for taking bereavement leave?" I showed her the email on my phone. Maya's expression transformed from shock to pure fury. "This is illegal. This is—" She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the team. Everyone needs to know about this." Within 20 minutes, all 6 of my core team members had gathered around my office. Alex looked like he might punch something. Rachel Turner, our social media manager, was openly crying. Kevin Williams, our data analyst who rarely showed emotion, kept shaking his head in disbelief. "You can't leave," Jessica Brooks insisted. "The Morrison presentation is today. The Davidson renewal is next week. The entire Q4 strategy is your design." "Marcus should have thought about that before he fired me," I replied, continuing to pack. "What is going on here?" Marcus's voice cut through the gathering. He stood in my doorway, arms crossed, his expression irritated rather than concerned. "Everyone should be at their desks. We have the Morrison pitch in 2 hours." Nobody moved. "Now," Marcus added, his voice hardening. Alex spoke up. "You fired Sarah for attending her father's funeral." "I fired Sarah for abandoning her responsibilities during a critical period," Marcus corrected smoothly. "Sometimes difficult decisions have to be made for the good of the company." "Her responsibilities that you approved her to step away from?" Maya challenged. Marcus's jaw tightened. "The business landscape changes rapidly. I don't have to explain my management decisions to my subordinates. Now, I need everyone back at work. Sarah, please complete your packing quickly and quietly." I looked up at him. "Actually, Marcus, I'm waiting for my attorney to arrive." "David Mitchell. Perhaps you've heard of him? He specializes in employment law, particularly wrongful termination cases." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Marcus's face. "That's unnecessary. This is a straightforward separation." "Then you won't mind waiting with me until he gets here," I said pleasantly. "I'm sure he'll want to discuss the documentation I have." "All those emails where you approved my leave and told me to take my time. Very thorough paper trail." Marcus's face went pale. "I need to check something," he muttered, practically fleeing my office. Alex grinned. Your dad taught you well. Yes, I said softly, looking at my father's photo on my desk. Yes, he did. David Mitchell arrived exactly 30 minutes later, carrying a leather briefcase and wearing an expression that meant business. He was in his 50s, with silver hair and the kind of calm confidence that came from winning cases. Sarah, he greeted me warmly, then looked around at my half-packed office. Before we go to HR, I need to review everything you have. We spent the next hour in a conference room going through my documentation. Every email, every approval, every message from Marcus. David took notes, occasionally nodding or making small sounds of satisfaction. This is even better than I thought, he finally said. Texas law is very clear about retaliatory termination. Firing someone for taking legally protected leave, which bereavement falls under, opens them up to significant liability. Plus, your documentation is impeccable. My father was a paralegal, I explained. He taught me to keep records of everything. David smiled. Robert raised you right. Now, here's what's going to happen. We're going to HR. You're going to let them present their separation package, and you're not going to sign anything. Then I'm going to request a meeting with their legal department. Lisa Anderson from HR looked nervous when we entered her office. She kept glancing at David like he was a bomb that might explode. Sarah, I'm so sorry about your father, Lisa began carefully. And I'm sorry we're meeting under these circumstances. She slid a separation agreement across her desk. Standard severance, 2 weeks' pay, continuation of health benefits for 30 days, and a non-disparagement clause. But also a liability waiver, signing away my right to sue TechFlow for any reason related to my employment or termination. David picked up the document, scanned it, and set it back down. My client won't be signing this. Lisa's professional composure cracked slightly. Mr. Mitchell, this is a generous package. Generous? David's tone was mild but sharp. Your company terminated my client for taking approved bereavement leave to bury her father. That's textbook wrongful termination under Texas Labor Code Section 21.051 and potentially violates the Family and Medical Leave Act. This waiver is an attempt to avoid legal consequences for an illegal termination. Lisa went pale. I need to call our legal department. Excellent idea, David agreed. While you do that, I'll be filing a formal complaint with the Texas Workforce Commission. I'm also prepared to file a civil suit for wrongful termination, emotional distress, and punitive damages. Given the documentation we have, I estimate TechFlow's liability at somewhere between $500,000 and $2 million, depending on how a jury feels about a company that fires grieving daughters. Wait, Lisa said quickly. Please wait. Let me make some calls. While Lisa stepped out, I sat back in my chair, processing everything. My phone buzzed continuously with messages from my team. Alex had sent a group text. Marcus just tried to run the Morrison presentation. Complete disaster. Client walked out after 15 minutes. Another message from Maya. Pat Sullivan just arrived from Dallas. She looks furious. Nobody told her you were being terminated. Patricia Sullivan was TechFlow's regional director, Marcus's boss. If she hadn't known about my termination, that meant Marcus had acted alone, without authorization. David noticed my expression. Good news? Marcus didn't get approval from his supervisor before firing me, I said, showing him the messages. And he just botched the biggest client pitch of the quarter. David smiled slowly. Even better. Unauthorized termination, lost revenue, and we can argue that your termination directly caused business harm. Sarah, I think TechFlow is about to have a very bad day. My phone rang. It was Jennifer Walsh, CEO of Innovate Tech Systems, TechFlow's biggest competitor. We'd met at a marketing conference 6 months ago and had stayed in touch. I looked at David. Mind if I take this? By all means, he said. Explore all your options. Sarah, I just heard what happened. Jennifer Walsh's voice was sharp with concern. Marcus Reed fired you? For taking bereavement leave? News traveled fast in Austin's tech marketing scene. Word gets around quickly, I said. Your team is already talking about it on LinkedIn, Jennifer explained. Half the marketing community knows by now. Sarah, I've been trying to recruit you for months. This is awful timing to bring it up. But if you're interested, Innovate Tech has a VP of Digital Strategy position opening next week. It's yours if you want it. VP of Digital Strategy. 2 levels above my current former position. Substantially more money, more authority, better benefits. What about my non-compete? I asked carefully. Our legal team already reviewed it when I first approached you 6 months ago, Jennifer said. It's overly restrictive and likely unenforceable, especially given wrongful termination. Plus, we'd cover any legal costs if TechFlow tried to enforce it. Take the weekend to think about it. We can talk specifics Monday. After hanging up, David raised an eyebrow. Job offer already? From TechFlow's biggest competitor, I confirmed. Perfect. That gives you leverage. He leaned forward. Here's my advice. TechFlow will panic when they realize the legal exposure. They'll offer you your job back, probably with a raise. But you don't need them anymore. You have options, and they're about to discover just how badly they need you. Lisa returned 30 minutes later, accompanied by 2 men in expensive suits, TechFlow's legal team. The lead attorney, Richard something, looked deeply uncomfortable. Ms. Johnson, Richard began, after reviewing the circumstances, we believe there may have been a miscommunication regarding your termination. A miscommunication, I repeated flatly. Marcus Reed acted without proper authorization, Richard continued. Regional Director Sullivan was not consulted, nor was our legal department. We're prepared to reinstate you immediately with a formal apology and a 15% raise. David spoke before I could. My client will need time to consider. In the meantime, she expects full pay continuation and will need that reinstatement offer in writing, along with a guarantee that there will be no retaliation. Of course, Richard agreed quickly. We'll have everything drafted by end of day. As we left HR, I checked my phone. 12 new messages, all from team members. Alex. Pat Sullivan just chewed out Marcus in front of everyone. He's been suspended. Maya. The Morrison account called. They want to know if you're available for a meeting. They don't want to work with TechFlow without you. Kevin. Sarah, I need to talk to you. Not about work, about what comes next. That evening, I met my team at Mozart's Coffee on Lake Austin, far enough from the office to talk freely. They arrived one by one, Alex, Maya, Kevin, Rachel, Carlos Bennett, and Jessica, all looking exhausted and angry. Marcus is done, Alex said immediately. Pat suspended him pending investigation. But Sarah, TechFlow without you? It's not the same. They offered to bring me back, I said carefully. 15% raise, formal apology. Are you taking it? Rachel asked. I paused, watching the sun set over Lady Bird Lake, thinking about my father. He'd always taught me to know my worth and never settle for organizations that didn't value their people. I got an offer from Innovate Tech, I said finally. VP of Digital Strategy. Much better title, better pay, better culture. The table went silent. Then Maya spoke. If you go to Innovate Tech, would they be hiring? I studied their faces, seeing the same thought reflected in each expression. They're expanding rapidly. I'd make sure any applications from talented marketers got serious consideration. Alex pulled out his phone. What's their careers page URL? Wait, I said. You all have good positions here. Job security. What security? Kevin interrupted. If they'd fire you for burying your father, None of us are safe. Rachel nodded. Where you go, we go. Monday morning, I received 2 phone calls before 8 a.m. The first was from Jennifer Walsh, welcoming me officially to Innovate Tech as their new VP of Digital Strategy. The second was from Patricia Sullivan. Sarah, we need to talk. Pat's voice carried an urgency I'd never heard before. Can you come to the office? Please? I don't work for TechFlow anymore, Pat, I reminded her gently. I know, and that was a catastrophic mistake. I'm calling an emergency meeting with legal and executive leadership. I need you here. Something in her tone made me curious. I'll be there in an hour. When I arrived at TechFlow's offices, the atmosphere was tense. Employees whispered in clusters, and several people looked at me with expressions ranging from sympathy to hope. Pat's assistant rushed me directly to the executive conference room. Inside sat Pat, Richard the attorney, TechFlow's CFO William Morrison, and CEO Thomas Bradford. Marcus was notably absent. Sarah, Thomas began, standing to shake my hand. First, please accept my deepest condolences about your father. Second, what happened to you was unconscionable, and it happened on my watch. I take full responsibility. I said nothing, waiting. Marcus Reed has been terminated, Pat continued. His actions were unauthorized, unethical, and potentially illegal. We're prepared to offer you reinstatement as senior marketing manager with a 25% raise, full back pay, and a written guarantee against retaliation. That's generous, I acknowledged, but I've accepted a position elsewhere. The room deflated visibly. We'll match their offer, Thomas said quickly. Whatever they're paying, plus 20%. It's not about the money. Then what would it take? Pat asked, and I heard genuine desperation. Sarah, we're in serious trouble. The Morrison account pulled their contract this morning. Davidson is threatening to leave. And, she hesitated, we've received 6 resignation letters today. Your entire team is leaving. That surprised me, though it shouldn't have. They all gave notice? Effective immediately, the CFO said grimly, citing hostile work environment and loss of confidence in leadership. That's 6 people who carry institutional knowledge we can't replace quickly. Richard cleared his throat. There's also the matter of your non-compete agreement. If you join Innovate Tech and take TechFlow employees with you, we'd be forced to pursue legal action. David Mitchell's voice came from behind me. I hadn't heard him enter. I'd love to see you try that in court, Richard. Wrongful termination tends to void non-compete clauses. Plus, employees have the right to pursue better opportunities. You'd be laughed out of the courtroom. Thomas pinched the bridge of his nose. This isn't about legal threats. Sarah, you built something special here. Your team, your strategies, your client relationships, they're the backbone of our marketing division. Without you, we're looking at potentially losing 40% of our revenue. Then you should have thought about that before Marcus fired me for attending my father's funeral, I said quietly. My dad died, and instead of receiving support from my employer, I got a termination notice. Do you understand what that felt like? The room went silent. Pat spoke softly. I do. And I'm ashamed. Marcus acted alone, but the culture that allowed him to think that was acceptable, that's on all of us in leadership. I appreciate the honesty, I said, standing, but I've made my decision. Innovate Tech values its people. They've already proven that. As I reached the door, Thomas called out, The clients are asking for you specifically. Morrison, Davidson, 3 others. They want to follow you wherever you go. I turned back. Then maybe you should focus on building a company people want to stay at, rather than trying to trap them with legal threats. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer. All 6 accepted our offers. Your team is coming with you. Welcome to Innovate Tech, Sarah. I smiled and walked out of TechFlow's offices for the last time, leaving behind a company scrambling to survive the earthquake they'd created by underestimating a grieving daughter who knew her worth. 3 months into my role at Innovate Tech, I stood before the executive board presenting our quarterly results. The numbers told a story that exceeded even Jennifer Walsh's optimistic projections. Digital Strategy Division is up 34% in revenue, I explained, clicking through the presentation. We've acquired 5 major clients, 3 of them former TechFlow accounts. Our team efficiency has improved by 28%, and client satisfaction scores are at 96%, the highest in company history. Jennifer beamed from her seat at the head of the table. Exceptional work, Sarah. You and your team have transformed this division. After the meeting, I returned to my corner office, significantly larger than my old space at TechFlow, to find my team waiting with champagne and cupcakes. "What's this for?" I asked, laughing. "It's been exactly 3 months since we all jumped ship together," Alex explained, pouring glasses. "We're celebrating our Independence Day. And the fact that TechFlow just posted a quarterly loss of $1.8 million, Maya added with a grin. It's all over the industry news." I pulled up the article on my laptop. The headline read, "TechFlow Solutions reports massive loss amid client exodus and leadership scandal." The article detailed TechFlow's downward spiral, Marcus Reed's termination, the loss of major accounts, the mass resignation of their marketing team. Patricia Sullivan had resigned 2 weeks ago. The company was hemorrhaging clients and talent, unable to deliver on contracts without the institutional knowledge that had walked out the door. "They lost the Hendricks account yesterday," Kevin said, reading over my shoulder. "That's another 15% of their annual revenue gone." "Marcus is done in the industry," Rachel added, scrolling through her phone. "LinkedIn shows he's been unemployed since his termination. Nobody will touch him after what he did." I felt no pleasure in Marcus's downfall, only a sense of justice. This wasn't about revenge. It was about consequences. Companies couldn't treat people as disposable and expect loyalty. Leaders couldn't punish grief and expect dedication. "There's more," Jessica said hesitantly. "I heard from a friend still at TechFlow. They're being acquired by Meridian Tech Group, basically a fire sale. The company is worth a fraction of what it was 6 months ago." My phone buzzed with an email from David Mitchell. "Thought you'd want to know. TechFlow's insurance company just settled your wrongful termination claim. Full amount we requested, $750,000. They didn't even try to negotiate. Check attached." I stared at the email. $750,000. Compensation for the pain, the injustice, the violation of firing someone for mourning their father. "You okay?" Alex asked, noticing my expression. "David just settled my wrongful termination suit," I said quietly. "TechFlow paid out $750,000. The room erupted in cheers and congratulations, but I felt strangely hollow. The money didn't bring my father back. It didn't erase the hurt of that termination email. But then I looked around at my team, thriving, happy, finally working somewhere that valued them. I thought about the clients who'd followed us because they trusted our work more than they trusted a company name. I thought about the culture Jennifer had built at Innovate Tech, where taking bereavement leave was met with compassion, not termination. "You know what?" I said, raising my champagne glass. "This isn't about TechFlow falling. It's about us rising. We proved that talented people don't need toxic companies. Toxic companies need talented people." "To Sarah," Maya said, "who taught us that knowing your worth means never settling for less." We toasted, and for the first time since my father's death, I felt genuinely at peace. Not because TechFlow had collapsed, but because we'd built something better in its place. My phone buzzed with a news alert. TechFlow Solutions. CEO Thomas Bradford announces resignation amid company crisis. The empire was crumbling, but we had already moved on to build our own. 1 year after that devastating termination email, Innovate Tech named me Chief Marketing Officer for their entire Southwest region. My division had become the crown jewel of the company, innovative, efficient, and boasting industry-leading client retention rates. Each member of my original team had been promoted as well. Alex now ran his own division in Houston. Maya had pioneered a creative department that won 3 national awards. Kevin's data analytics program had been adopted company-wide. Rachel, Carlos, and Jessica had all moved into senior leadership roles, their talents finally receiving the recognition they deserved. On the anniversary of my termination, I received an unexpected email from Patricia Sullivan. She'd left TechFlow and started her own consulting firm specializing in workplace culture and ethical leadership. Sarah, her email read, "I know this is long overdue, but I wanted to apologize personally for what happened. TechFlow's collapse taught me that a company is only as strong as how it treats its people during their darkest moments. I failed you, and I failed everyone who worked there. I hope you're thriving. You deserved better than what we gave you. Pat." I stared at the message for a long moment, then typed a brief reply. "Thank you for reaching out, Pat. I hope you're helping other companies avoid the same mistakes. We all deserved better." That afternoon, a package arrived at my office. Inside was a framed photo, the old team picture from TechFlow's Lake Travis retreat, with a note from Lisa Anderson in HR. "Found this in storage before the office closed. Thought you might want it. TechFlow officially shut down last week. You and your team were the heart of that company. They should have known that. Lisa." I placed the photo on my bookshelf next to the newer one. My team at Innovate Tech's recent celebration, all of us smiling, successful, and valued. That evening, I drove to Lady Bird Lake and walked to the same spot where my father and I used to watch the sunset during his final months. The water was calm, reflecting the orange and pink sky like a mirror. I thought about how a single email had changed everything, how the worst professional moment of my life had led to the best outcome I could have imagined. Not just for me, but for everyone who'd followed me. My phone buzzed with a text from Jennifer Walsh. "Board approved your proposal for the Employee Wellness Program, including expanded bereavement leave and mental health support. You're changing this company for the better, Sarah." I smiled, tears pricking my eyes. This was the real victory. Not destroying TechFlow, but building a workplace where people could grieve without fear, where family crises didn't end careers, where employees were valued as human beings, not just productivity metrics. "You were right, Dad," I whispered to the lake. "You taught me to document everything, to know my worth, and to never let anyone diminish what I've built. But most importantly, you taught me that the best revenge isn't tearing others down. It's building something so good that the old way becomes obsolete." A light breeze rippled across the water, and I imagined my father standing beside me, proud of the leader I'd become. The greatest lesson from this entire ordeal wasn't about legal strategy or career advancement. It was about dignity. Marcus had tried to reduce my father's death to an inconvenient absence, a failure to prioritize work. Instead, honoring my father's memory by standing up for myself had created opportunities for dozens of people to find better careers. TechFlow had collapsed under the weight of its own cruelty, but we had thrived by remembering that behind every employee was a human being with families, grief, and dignity that deserved respect. As I watched the sun sink below the horizon, I felt nothing but gratitude, even for the painful parts. Sometimes the worst moments reveal who truly values you, and sometimes getting fired is the best thing that ever happens to you. My father would have been proud of that lesson most of all.